What's good, everybody? Welcome back to a new video. So Logic Pro has an amazing reputation of being amazing for mixing. So I haven't used it for mixing yet, but in today's video, I'm going to try and use it for mixing and try and mix this beat that I made in my previous video for the first time and see how the kind of mixing flow works while I apply some of the methods that I've been using in other DAWs and try and see how I can use them in Logic. Okay, so this is a beat that I made in my previous video. If you didn't check out that cookup, you must definitely check it out and see how I made this beat from scratch. This is how the beat sounds like. So this is just the intro. And you can hear that this beat is coming off like hella loud, and there's just so much going on this beat. So this is the beat that I want to mix. It definitely needs a little bit of mixing, and I think that's this is a perfect beat to use for this, this kind of video. So the first thing I want to do is I want to turn up my output, the output from my audio interface up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the app for my audio interface, which is the Evo Control. I use an Audio Evo 4 that is on the disc right here. So this is, you can see, this is my mic. The mic that I'm speaking to you right now, and this is my output right here. So what I'm going to do is, you can see my output is by 50%, so I'm just going to turn it up all the way to the maximum. So this depends with the kind of headphones you have. So I'm using Bear Dynamics 250 ohm headphones, so they're not super loud on like super high volume, but they are loud. But if you're using like low impedance headphones, you might want to just stay on 50%, but I'm just turning them all the way up so that I know that everything is loud, and I've got this loudness so that I can, when I start to gain stage, I can start turning everything down to a comfortable level. So that's the first step that I usually do. So you want to turn everything up and then start turning everything down, like inside the DAW that you're using and mixing. So I just turned that up. Now I'm just going to minimize this. Boom, now it's done. Now I'm just going to open these sidebars right here. So now the first step is going to be gain staging. Make sure that all the signals of every instrument are not too loud, and I'm not overdriving them and pushing them too loud. So that's the first stage. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the kick. So I'm just going to solo the kick, and maybe what I can do is I can just come right here to this section here where the kick is, right here, so that we can just hear the kick. So you can tell the kick is very loud. So what I can also do is I can just also extend this. You can tell the kick is very loud. And sometimes I don't usually mind when the kick is that loud, because that's the loudest thing that I want in the track, but it is kind of loud, so I might want to turn down the kick a little bit. So what I'll just do is maybe turn it down a tad bit, maybe by 3 decibels. So if I check the meter down here, I can see that it's around -5 thereabouts. So I think that's a good safe spot. And then I'm gonna go down and check out this next sound here. This next sound here, it's also super loud, so I'm just gonna also turn it down. But I think this sound, yeah, so these are just wave sounds, so they're not linked to any plugins or anything like that. So I'm also just gonna turn it down as well. Make sure it's not too loud, just like that. And then when it comes to sounds that are from plugins, like this next sound here, I have to open the plugin itself, and then after I open the plugin, I just make sure I adjust the volume on the plugin itself. So I'm going to turn that down like that. So I think that's a good spot. And then I'm going to move to the bass, and I'm going to go to the plugin again. But I'm also looking at the meter here. You can see it's also going up to 0 dB. So I can tell that this is super loud. So I'm gonna want to turn that down as well. Okay, can I even find the volume knob on this thing. Oh, there. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it down to like, let's say minus 5 dB. I think that's a good place. So now it's down. Now I'm gonna go to the next sound, which is this Mayday bass. So I'm just gonna move my loop up. Okay, that's hella loud. So I'm gonna need to turn it down as well. I'm just gonna turn it down. Maybe minus 10 dB. So you don't need to copy these numbers as they are and just copy them and then apply the method, not these numbers that I'm dropping everything down. I'm just playing it by ear and just going with the situation. That's the thing about mixing. It's not about copying the numbers of, you know, what anyone is doing. So then I'm just gonna keep going with every sound and just turning them down. So that's basically, you know, just gain staging. Make sure that, you know, all these plugins are not being driven too loud. So now next here I have this next sound. Just gonna drop that down. So when it comes to these other sounds here, I can just select all of them like these shakers, and then I can just turn them down like that together. And I also have a tambourine, can also drop down. And then we have an African chant right here. I can just turn that down too, because that's sample based. And then we also have this drum sound and this one too. I think both of these I can just turn down like this. Okay, so now that the gain staging is complete, now we know that all these sounds are not being driven too loud. Now we can just take a listen to hear what's our overall output. So you can see here, we're still clipping, right? Because the sound pressure, all the sounds playing together are hella loud. So you can see we are still clipping, it's still very loud. Now I'm gonna open up the mixer like this, and now we can start with the mixing, which is the next stage of this. So we just did some gain staging, basic gain staging. So now the best thing to do is just select everything, like select everything except the stereo out. So I'm just gonna select all these instruments, and then I'm gonna drop their level down. Like maybe just down, maybe halfway, just like down 50%. And let me play that back. There we go. Now we are hitting around -7 decibels. So meaning that we have around 3 dB of headroom, like for the whole track, to the master. And I can even drop these down a little bit further. Let's see what's that gonna do. Okay, so -13, -11. Yeah, I think that's a good, you know, that's good headroom. I think that's good headroom. That's good enough. Maybe I can turn it up a little bit more. Yeah, I think somewhere around here is okay. That's good enough headroom. And then now what I'm gonna start doing now is I'm gonna try and open up this mixer on its own, of which I think that might be a bad idea. So I'm just gonna leave it as is like this. So I'm gonna start with maybe this first sound here, which is the kick. So what I'm gonna do with the kick is I'm going to load up a distortion plugin. I'm gonna load up some overdrive right here, just to really pump up this kick. Just like that. I think I'm gonna drop down the drive a little bit because I don't want it to color the kick too much. I think that's pretty good. So this is without the drive, and with the drive, I think that's good enough. And I can put on an EQ just so I can take a look at the frequencies. And I think I'm gonna turn down the sub frequencies a little bit, just by -4 decibels, just like that. And I don't think I'll need compression for the kick here. And then next I'm gonna go to this next sound here, and definitely this sound needs some EQing. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna high pass some of those low frequencies, like maybe up to 120 Hertz. And I see it's got this big spike right here around 200 hertz. So I'm just gonna drop that and I'm gonna change my Q down a little bit. So I can turn that down because that's sound pressure, that's energy that's on that section there. So I'm just gonna do that. And I don't want the sound to be too bright. So what I can do is I can just shelve the high frequencies like that. I think that's good enough. Then I can move to the next sound. And I think I'm just gonna turn the sound up again a little bit. But it's supposed to be like a background sound. And then I'm gonna open up the EQ so I can take a look at the frequencies. I can see there's some low frequencies right there that I might need to also just take out because we don't need those. Okay, I think that sound is good. So we're gonna move to the bass. Okay, so the bass is very weak. So I might want to raise the bass. So I want my bass to be loud, but not too loud, louder than the kick, because the kick has to be the loudest thing. And an effect I can drop in is if I come into multi-effects, I can open up like this fat FX. This is a cool plugin, bro. Like you can see, it's got a bass enhancer and a compressor and some distortion. So it's got some soft saturation at 15% and this vary drive at 5%, and it's got 50% of this bass enhancer on there. So it's really cool. So this is without it. And that's with. So it's really boosting the bass nicely. So I think that's really cool. Now I can understand why people like mix with Logic. Just the stock plugins in this thing are super crazy. Okay, now to the next sound. I'm gonna turn this sound down a little bit. So I do have a reverb on here. I'm gonna turn down the wet down till it's like 20%. And I'm just going to open up the EQ. And you can see these low frequencies coming up here. So I'm definitely going to shelve these out. I'm not going to do what I did with the other sound, which is to high pass. I'm just going to shelve out because I kind of want to take them down, but I don't want them to also come up too high. And maybe some of that mid-range, I think I also need to just control it down a little bit. Just like that. And then to the next sound. So there's this next sound here. I'm just going to open an EQ. I think that's a really nice sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up a reverb. I think what I'll do is I'll load in a chroma verb. Okay, I think that sounds really cool. I think that sounds nice. Let's try some delay and see how it's going to sound with a little bit of delay. So I can choose a stereo delay. So what I'm going to do with this delay is I'm going to drop it down before the reverb. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim out and high cut the high frequencies of this sound. Just like that. Just a little bit like that, because I want the delay to be just a little bit, not too much. Okay, I think that's good enough. So now next, this next sound here, I don't know what the hell this sound is doing, but I like how it sounds. But it obviously has a lot of frequencies happening here. So what I'm going to do is with this sound, I'm also just going to make sure that I cut out the low frequencies, because I'm seeing that it has some low frequencies that are just shooting up at random moments. And I think with a sound like this, what I could do is I can maybe throw on a compressor right there just to control how it's moving. So I'll just throw on like just a simple compressor, and I'll just leave it on the Platinum Digital, and I'll just drop the threshold just to catch all those peaks. And when it comes to the auto gain, I'm just gonna leave it on 0 dB, or maybe just off. So you can see it's actually catching all those peaks that are coming up, just, you know, making sure that everything is nice. And I'm gonna raise the ratio up. I think I'm gonna go 4:1. And I think I'm gonna increase the attack to make it, well then, okay, that was a knee, so let me just leave the knee where it was. I'll just drop down the attack and have a faster attack and a slower release. And turn off auto. Yeah, just to catch some of those peaks. And then now the next sound. Okay, so I might want to move this loop section here so that we can find that next sound. Okay, that is hella loud. That is hella loud. So I might want to go back into this sound here and check it out and drop it down because it's very loud. So sometimes as you are gain staging, you can miss a sound. So you see, I just went back and then I just turned it down. So it's not a train smash. Okay, I think that's good enough. Okay, so we have some drums here, some percussion sounds. I think I can just drop in an EQ and I can just turn down the high frequencies a little bit. And maybe drop in a compressor as well. Just raise the threshold to like a 3:1. Okay, let me change it to a VCA. Yeah, I think that sounds better. So it can just catch some of those peaks of that cowbell. Okay, I like the sound here. I think I might just want to turn it up. Okay, so I'm going to move up to the point where the kick is. Because this sound here has a good relationship with the kick, so I'm going to make sure that it's sitting nicely at a point where the kick, it's not like overpowering the kick and it's not disturbing the kick. And we've got some congas next. Okay, so these congas have a lot of information right here in the low mid. So I'm just going to turn that down and just change the Q a little bit. And also just high pass without taking out a lot of bass. So maybe around 70 Hertz. Just like that. I think that's good enough. And then next, we got some shakers. I'm a fan of shakers, bro. I'm a fan of shakers. See, there's some random low frequencies right here. That's the thing with shakers, especially shaker loops. You just always have to look out for that. So I'm just gonna make sure that I trim all of that out. And at this point, I think that's all I need to do with the shakers. And the next sound, I'm gonna do the same, just check the EQ. There you have it. There's some low end energy that I want to EQ out. So boom, it's gonna come out. And then next, I'm going to turn down these tambourines, and I want these tambourines to be super shiny. And if you notice what I'm doing, I'm making these moves from scratch. I'm not even using presets. So I hope you guys are really enjoying this and learning, all the decisions that I'm making. But if you do have questions, you can always drop them in the comments down below. So I'm going to, just for the sake of it, high pass all of it and just raise the high frequencies. Because I want this tambourine to really shine, to be really shiny. Okay, so that's a vocal sound. I'm just gonna turn down the high mids like that. Just like that. And I can already see that it has some effects. It's got some reverb and some delay as well. So I'm just gonna make sure that the EQ is before those effects. Then we have another sound here that is doing some stuff here. So I'm just gonna turn down the high frequency so that it's more on the mid. Yeah, I think I'm gonna turn it up around 2480 hertz and drop down this 1K. Yeah, I think that's perfect. Okay, so lastly now it's the tom. So I'm going to make sure that the tom is nice and present, contrasting the kick, but not too louder than the kick. And with this tom, I might want to check the EQ. And I think I'll just drop down this frequency here that it's focused on a little bit. Maybe around 100 hertz. Just like that. And then what I want to do with this tom is maybe add some distortion, just a little bit of distortion. So I'm going to go back to the overdrive. Let's see how that sounds. Okay, I think that's sounding pretty cool. I think that's sounding really good. I think that's sounding really good now. So that's everything now. So what I can also do is maybe raise up the kick a little bit more. And something that I can also do is maybe just sidechain the bass to the kick so that it gives room for the kick. That's another thing that I can also do. And I love that sidechaining is super easy in here. I just have to load up a compressor. So I'm going to go into dynamics and load up a compressor and make sure that it's sidechaining the festival kick right here like that. So I'm going to drop down the attack and make sure that it releases quickly, like I think 20 milliseconds. And the auto gain off. And I think the ratio is okay. Maybe I can drop it down a little bit more. Let me just raise the threshold a little bit to like -15. So I like that you can actually see the gain reduction happening right here. You see that purple? That's the gain reduction meter showing. I like that. That's a pretty cool thing to show. That's really cool. So I think the mix is basically done. So I like how this mix came out. So just to contrast how this track is sounding. Let me just play it back for you from here. I like how the kick is really standing out now. Everything sounds nice and clear. I can hear all the instruments. Now let's hear when everything comes in. Okay, that sounds nice. Hey, okay, that sounds good. Okay, I think that sounds good, but I might want to turn down this lead a little bit, a tad bit, maybe down a little bit. I think I want it like that. So after this, that's when I might want to move to the mastering. But if you see my stereo out, you can see that my master is hitting around -6 to -9 dB. So we still have a lot of headroom on the master. So now the mixing is done. I like how it's sounding through my headphones, but that's not going to mean that it's going to sound good everywhere else. So I need to check. So this is where I need to take off my headphones and, turn on my speakers and listen on the speakers and on other systems, just to take a listen to see how the mix is translating everywhere else, just to make sure that, it's kind of making sense, because obviously every sound system has its own bias. So that's something you also want to be aware of before you move on to the mastering stage, just to kind of do a mix check and check everything, just to check around. So if you have any speakers or any other sound that you can, just maybe print out the track as it is, as just a mix as it is, and then you can go play in a car, on a phone, on a laptop, even on a laptop like this. You can even just check it and see how it's sounding to you and how it's translating. If it sounds good on all these places, like overall, then you know that your mix is good. But if after that, then you can make sure that you go on to the mastering stage. But thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, make sure to drop them down below. If you want to see me master this track, make sure to also let me know down below. And also support this video. Share this with a friend. I hope you found this super helpful. Check out this next video that's on screen right now if you want to learn more and watch me produce. If you want to see me produce this track from scratch, I also have a video showing you how I made this track from scratch. I'll see you in the next video. I'm X and I'm out. Peace.